Chapter 1, Building a Park. Welcome back, guys. Grey Wolf from Construction Simulator 3, here to present you Episode 3 of our Construction Simulator series. And today we'll be building a park, probably right next to the scenic pond that we just built in the previous episode. Now, as always, we'll be starting off at the construction company's site, and this is one of the construction company's campaign missions. If you look at the map, you'll see where our vehicles are, over here, the far left. And you'll see our job site is on the opposite side of town, far right. And you'll notice the pond that we built is also there on the map. So as you do these contracts, these campaign contracts, your map should update with the contracts already on them. This is how you know that the town that you're constructing is growing. Now again, we're using the helper function to drive through the streets of Peckling, Hempsy. This can be tricky. You're dealing with an 11-year-old driver in the back seat of that truck. And now that we're at the site, let's get started. Chapter 2, dig out the barbecue pit. Now, excavation in the cab view can be a lot of fun. And like I said in previous episodes, don't be afraid to dig outside the yellow lines. This will make sure that everything that needs to be excavated is excavated and the spot does complete. The clearing of the soil is very important for the contract's task completion. If you're ever stuck and you're wondering why the task won't complete and go on to the next part of the mission, just double tap the screen and it'll show you exactly where you still need to excavate. If it's green, you're good. If it's red, you're dead. Or you just need to dig there, whichever one you decide. Another thing, you do not have to throw the excess soil into the back of the dump truck. I prefer to do this because it's going to be a little extra money for our time. Get to the soil to the gravel plant, we'll easily get about $1,400 to $2,000, depending on the points that you have put into the digging tree, as points put into business skills, which gives you a 25% increase in the sale of bulk. Now we're almost finished digging out this barbecue pit. I can already hear families circling around and singing Kumbaya or roasting marshmallows. And once we clear this out, we're going to be moving on to the next part of this task. The general contractor is going to want us to pick up some material for this pavilion that we'll be building as well. So let's get down to it. Off to the gravel plant. So for about half a load of dump truck, we got almost $1,400 or CR. And now that we are done dumping off the excess soil, we're going to head to the vehicle dealer and rent the next vehicle that we're going to need for the contract. Now we need to compact the area that we're building the pavilion on, and this is just to make sure that when the rainy season comes, the pavilion doesn't sink into the ground. And since I don't own the compactor, we're just going to drive up the street over to the vehicle dealer and rent one for a few hundred every minute. Chapter 3, Compact the Contract. Now maybe you are like me and whenever you go to the grocery store for one thing, you end up buying a couple more things. What we ended up doing here was renting the semi-loader and the semi-trailer, or the lorry, as you would say in England, the lorry, as well as the compactor that we're going to need. And this time we wanted the bow mag. Now the blue trailer is all you need to load up the compactor. Don't worry about buying the green one, that's for more heavy equipment. And it can be tricky to load these on the back of the trailer, but long press, secure the trailer, let's get back into the semi-truck and head off on our way. Now I'm going to call upon our 11-year-old driver over there in the Manti GX to follow us behind, and we'll be on our way to the construction site. You'll notice the helper function is active when you see the target symbol on the back of your truck. Just beware, having the helper function on while using a semi-trailer is a little tricky, and accidents can happen. So do expect those seats to be cut out. Our way to the construction site, safe and sound, and we'll get on to the next part of this task. Now this is where our park benches are going to be going, so next we'll be compacting where the pavilion will be built. And as you can see, just driving back and forth is pretty effective. You don't have to try to drive in circles. And even in cab view, you can get a better look at what you're compacting and really appreciate the machines that you're using. Once we're done with this, we'll be returning the compactor onto the blue trailer. The semi-hauler will take the compactor and the trailer back to the vehicle dealer, and we will return the vehicles and pay off our rental fees. Chapter 4, Bring the Materials. Now we're going to need some lumber to build the pavilion and the park benches. No park is perfect, no park is complete without a pavilion and some park benches to sit on. Also, you can't have a beautiful park without some beautiful trees. So we're going to pick up the saplings, pick up the lumber boards, and make our way back to the construction site. Remember, when loading, you want to try and get everything in one trip. So load as smart as possible, make sure everything fits neatly and perfectly, and allows for space for the other material. Usually, wood, lumber, pallets of paint, or insulation can stack on top of each other. Saplings, however, they don't stack too well. Now once we're done loading, we're going to secure the load, and I'll meet you guys back at the construction site. Alright, now that we're here, we're going to be dropping off these pallets of wood, and our carpenters are going to get right to work on building up the pavilion for the park. And if you notice, the pond that we built last episode is right next to us, so anyone hanging out in the pavilion after we're finished with this contract can enjoy the work that we did last week on episode 2. The people of Peckling are really going to appreciate all the hard work that you put in, and I'm sure news of your small-time construction company will spread on to the other districts in the area. Now that the carpenters have finished putting the pavilion together, we're going to lend a hand with one of our bobcats. So let's get our machines out of the way, rent ourselves the bobcat excavator, and help the carpenters finish this pavilion. Chapter 5. Pulling the park together. Here's our bobcat excavator, aka my favorite tiny little crane. And as you can see, I'm saving up a lot of money for some big ticket items. So renting vehicles right now is going to be cost efficient for my company. Now you don't have to rent the T-Rex armed excavator, aka the bobcat excavator, aka my favorite tiny crane. You can use the MAN TGX crane, the Palfinger PK 27002, to put this pavilion together, and you don't have to spend a single penny. But I like to do things in style, and we're going to do just that with this little excavator, setting these railings onto the pavilion and letting the other carpenters on the job site know that we're not here to just putz around in these nice machines. We actually do work too. Alright, and once these are on, we're going to be having a coffee break because I'm already breaking a sweat just by putting these 4 railings on. But I do believe we will have to go pick up some material from the company headquarters. It's not like I can just construct wooden benches out of thin air. So the pavilion is done, it's gorgeous. The German carpenters are very effective. Now we need to unload the trees from the back of the truck so that we can use it for the park bench materials that inadvertently were mailed to our company headquarters, and bring them back for the carpenters to put together for us. Now it's pretty late at night, and I'm sure the carpenters want to go home, so we will go home as well, and then meet up at the company headquarters in the morning. Once a new day is upon us, we will bring the construction material necessary to the job site and finish our task. Good morning, my busy little bees. We're back at the company headquarters. We're picking up the materials that were left behind. Fortunately, our warehouse employees were nice enough to stack these boxes outside in an area that's reachable and accessible. All we have to do now is load them on the back of the truck. Now this driver must be texting and driving because it's green and they're not moving, so we'll just go right around them. Now bumper camera is a great way to get a good view of the street that you're driving on as well as the town in the area. It gives you a really nice cinematic drive. But remember, if you have traffic violations on, stop at the red lights. It's the law. Now if you can, try to look around inside the cab view as you make turns. This is going to help you avoid any traffic accidents. That also adds a nice element of realism to the game, but it can be tricky. So if you can't master this, don't worry. Now we're almost at the construction site, so it's time to offload these park benches, put them in place for the carpenters to put together for us, and then they'll leave it up to us to put the park benches in place. Come forth, my tiny crane. Now with the park benches constructed by our carpenters, it's our turn to play with the big toys and put these benches in place. This is the easy work. Once these are in place, we'll move on to the next part of the contract, and while we do this, the carpenters will be on break having a coffee. I like mine with a little cream and sugar, so if anyone's not busy, could they run and grab me one? Now once the park benches are in place, which shouldn't take too long, we'll be moving on to planting the trees. But first, we're going to have to excavate the areas that the trees are going to be planted. Now you can see this park is coming together already, piece by piece, pavilion by pavilion. park bench by park bench. Now just adding the last park bench here, the finishing touch, and we'll be finished with this task. If you notice, the circle in the top right hand corner, the one with the clipboard, is almost full. The green circle surrounding it is showing the task, and the green on the inside of the circle that fills up is showing the contract in a whole. Chapter 6, Planting Trees. Now we'll be using the Bobcat excavator for its true purpose, and that's to excavate. And since we'll be planting some trees in the areas near the park benches for some shade, we're going to start there. Now you can use the Bobcat excavator, you can use the 430 F2, or you can overkill it and rent a A918 Liebherr wheeled excavator and get these holes dug out in just a couple swipes. Now that hole is nice and dug out, we're going to be grabbing the tree and planting the sapling into the hole. Now I recommend you do this just so that you can skip the task later when it asks you to place these in the hole. Now since this tree doesn't want to stay there in place, I'm actually just going to use the Bobcat to hold it up in place while we use the cat backhoe to excavate the other two holes. This is where the Bobcat's crane function really comes in handy, to act as an anchor or a supporting arm to hold this tree in place while we plant it. Now we move on to the backhoe, the 430 F2 Caterpillar backhoe, to excavate these two holes. And you can tell the bucket's a little bit smaller than the Bobcat excavator, but that's alright. Just as long as you dig outside the yellow lines to the center, you should be able to excavate the contract pretty effectively and still get the same results. Now I have the excavator or the backhoe set up in such a way that I can access both of the holes that we will be digging for these saplings. And because I have it set up this way, it's not effective to bring the TGX man truck in here and dump the soil in the back of it. So for now we're just going to dump the soil off to the side and plant the trees, like I said, into the hole and leave them there. We'll move on to the next hole, dig that out, and also put a sapling in place to complete that part of the task. Now this hole is almost finished. We'll be planting the other sapling, which I inadvertently knocked over. And once we finish with that, we should be able to move on to the next part of the contract. Now remember, the other plant, the other tree is still attached to the Bobcat, so we need to go over to the Bobcat and we need to detach it from its crane function. Once we detach it from its crane function, we can go ahead and return the Bobcat. Chapter 7, Gravel for the Fireplace. Now to finish off the up-to-code fire pit, we will need to bring some gravel, because nothing is more fire resistant than gravel. And while it was nice for our truck driver to drop the gravel off in front of the contract, it is now up to me to scoop up the gravel and divvy it out among the area around the fire pit. You can, of course, take the lorry or the dump truck and fill it up with gravel at the gravel plant, and then slowly delegate the gravel throughout the contract's designated area, which is within this yellow tape. Now once I put the gravel down inside the yellow tape nice and neat, we'll be using the backhoe's bulldozer function to level it out so that it's more even. This will help us complete the task and ultimately complete the contract. Now this is taking quite a bit of time. It is a little time consuming. As you can see, we have quite a bit of gravel still to use. So we're going to switch to the wheel loader function of the backhoe and use the larger bucket to delegate the gravel out around the pit. It's important that we do these contracts fast and effectively to keep up with the finance cycle and to keep the company in the black. Now once I dump this gravel into the designated area, we will be able to use the bulldozer function on the wheel loader to level out the gravel and to complete this task more effectively. We know we're running against the clock, and to use the bulldozer function is going to make this a lot more effective, a lot faster. The faster we complete the contracts, the faster we make money, and we want to stay ahead of the bills that are coming in. The finance cycle can be very quick, it can sneak up on you. We also don't want to leave too much of a mess, so make sure you clean up most of the gravel that the dump truck had dumped all over the place, very ungraciously. Now I just got a couple spots left to fill in, as you can see, and we're going to be done. And once we finish putting this gravel here, the carpenters, the construction workers on the site will come in and clean up the rest of it for us and make it look nice and pretty, and then we can move on to the next thing. There'll be plenty more contracts after this. I'm sure I can see people sitting in the park benches and pondering about the renovations or upgrades to their property they might want to do. They'll be considering this construction company as they feed the fish in the koi pond next door, or enjoy the moonlight and stars on the pavilion, maybe even climbing in the trees once they've fully grown. This is a great contract to get the people of Peckling MZ to see exactly what your construction company is all about and spread the word onto the other districts eventually. Now that we're almost done, we'll be removing the construction machines off the site and watch the rest of the park come together. Chapter 8. Clean up and clear out. So as you can see, construction fans, the park has come together. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I really think people are going to enjoy coming here. And when people find out it's your construction company doing these magnificent works of art, we'll be sure to call you for another contract. That's it for episode 3. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check in next week for our next video. And if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at Construction Simulator 3. And if this video motivates you, then what are you waiting for? Get to work. I'll see you guys in the next one. Like and subscribe, and give this video a thumbs up, and watch out for our hardcore mode, coming soon. Grey Wolf out.